I've been waiting for something like this for the longest time, and we finally have the technology to do it. Up above is a shotgun microphone that is sending this audio wirelessly. Let me show you. This is the brand new Comica VM40 that's being held by this iFootage magic arm connected to this PVC right next to this tree. There's no cables attached because it's all done wirelessly. Now, I know there's people that have makeshifted some of this stuff before where they basically try to shoehorn a bunch of accessories together, but it's not a clean solution and it doesn't always work. This works flawlessly and it's pretty epic. So I want to show you guys my experience using this microphone and why I'm probably going to be taking this with me everywhere I go. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, before I show you guys what makes this microphone awesome, I do want to touch a little bit on this carrying pouch that is actually included, and I think it's a nice touch. So up here front and center, when we open up the zipper, you can see there's a foam windscreen that is included. There's also a dead cat. You get all the cables supplied, for example, a TRS cable that's going to connect to your camera. You also get a TRRS cable. This is going to connect to a smartphone. You also have USB cable, so this is going to be used to charge the transmitter, meaning the microphone, and also the receiver. Now, when we close this up, and I like how they have different compartments. So you have the compartment for all of your accessories, but then you also have your main compartment for all of the main accessories. For example, you have here the actual microphone itself, and this is a pretty standard size, I would say, and we'll go over the physicality in a second. You also get your receiver, so this is what's going to be attached to your camera, or also maybe your smartphone. And then you have your shock mount, of course, to keep all the vibrations isolated. And then lastly, we have a little mount here that will attach to the microphone stand. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the physicality of this microphone. Now what's impressive is that there's a transmitter built into this, yet when you look at it, it looks just like a standard microphone. So that's pretty impressive. Now moving towards the back, you have a gain adjustment knob. So you're going to be able to adjust the volume settings using this knob. You can also adjust the volume using the receiver or also using their application, which we'll touch on that a little bit later. On the side here is a USB port. This USB port is used to charge the microphone. You can also connect this to your computer and get digital audio. You can also update the firmware of the microphone. So as technology gets a little bit better, they can update the firmware and obviously give you better updates. On the side here, there's also a little pinhole to reset the device. Now on the side here, you also have a 3.5mm port, and this port allows you to connect it directly to your camera. So you don't have to use the wireless capabilities. You can actually just use this as a traditional shotgun microphone. Now moving towards the top of the microphone, you have the power button, which also looks like a little Wi-Fi symbol. If you hold that down, it will actually turn on the microphone. It also adjusts other settings too. Now there's also a record button. If you press it once, it'll cycle through the different low cut and high pass filters. And if you press and hold, it will actually record because inside there's an internal storage, 32 gigabytes, which will give you up to 40 hours of record time. So I am back on the Comica microphone, and what's really sweet about this mic also is that because it can record internally, it can also do it in 32-bit float. Now, if you're not familiar with what 32-bit float is, let me explain, but while I do that, I'm actually going to be walking back because remember, this is a wireless microphone which has up to 200 meters of range, roughly about 656 feet, I believe. My math is correct, eighth of a mile approximately. But what's really sweet is that with a 32-bit float recording, if I whisper or my voice is very soft, I can recover that in post, or I can yell really loud and it doesn't matter because again, I can fix it in post, which is sweet. Also, if for whatever reason my transmission here disconnects, if I'm too far and it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter because everything is being recorded here onto the microphone, which means that I can recover those, wait for it, fix it in post. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the physicality of the receiver. Now moving towards the back, you have a little clip here that allows you to pretty much clip this on to any cold shoe on any camera. Now towards the top of the receiver here, you have a USB port. This allows you to charge the receiver or also update the firmware. Now there are two 3.5mm ports. You have a 3.5mm out, which basically connects to your camera. That's what's receiving the signal from the shotgun microphone. Then there's also a 3.5mm for your headphone if you want to monitor audio. Now there are three buttons here. Obviously the one in the middle with the power on button allows you to turn on the device and off. You also have a channel 1 and channel 2. If you hold down the channel 1 button, this allows you to turn on noise cancellation. These microphones are actually very impressive when it comes to noise cancellation, and we will test that out a little bit later. You can also tap again, so there's like 2 levels of noise cancellation. So if you hold it down again, it will turn it on, and if you hold it down again for a 3rd time, that will turn it off. Now, there are different modes you can use. There's stereo, mono, and safety. Mono is just like one track, pretty much self-explanatory. Stereo is using a left and right channel. So depending on the ambiance, it's gonna pick both channels up. And then safety is really cool. A lot of microphone systems have this where one channel, usually the left channel, is much higher than the right channel, so that's your safety. And it doesn't really matter if you're recording 32-bit float internally, but this is good if you just want really clean audio from your camera and you want that safety track because you don't want to mess with those 32-bit files later. Okay, so I am back on the Comica microphone. Another thing that you can do with the receiver is also adjust the gain. So if for whatever reason you don't have access to the actual shotgun microphone, remember you have the gain volume here, you can do it on the receiver, but more importantly, there's also an app that you can change these settings. So their app is very easy to use. As you can see here, I'm actually recording 32-bit float on the microphone. I picked this alleyway where there's gonna be noise, there's gonna be a fan up here, there's just a bunch of stuff happening so that we can test the low cut filter, we can test also the denoise and all the other settings. So let's go ahead and turn on low cut filter so you guys can hear what that sounds like. You actually may hear a little like click, and that's because it's switching over to that low cut filter. I do hope that they can fix that with a firmware update. There's also high frequency boost. Again, guys, there's a lot of sounds happening, so I do want you guys to hear that. So high frequency boost. I just turned that on. Now what's going to happen is it's going to boost the microphone a little bit louder. So if you need that extra range, I'm able to do that. Of course, I can turn that off. I'm not going to mute myself. As you can see, I am recording. I can turn that recording off, but I do not want to turn that recording off. I am on a safety track, so it's having that safety track on the camera. Now let's go ahead and turn on denoise. So I'm going to go ahead and make that low so you guys can hear what that sounds like. So that is low denoise. Again, there's a large fan here. There's people passing by. There's a plane, actually literally a plane up above. I'm going to go ahead and turn on denoise to high. I don't know if you can hear the plane. I'm going to be quiet. I just turned it to high. I don't know how much of a difference that made. You hear cars passing by. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and turn everything off. So from high to off, you should be able to notice it. So now everything is off. Also going to take off the low cut filter. So you could probably hear more sounds, but again, their application is pretty clutch because you're able to do all these things. Now, how does this compare to other microphones? Let's go to the studio to do those tests and you guys can tell for yourself. All right, guys, so we're back here at the studio and I wanted to compare this to the Sennheiser MKE600, which is actually one of my favorite microphones for the money. So I've got both of them here. The MKE600 is running to the FX3, where the Comica mic, because it's wireless and we can record internally, is actually doing 32-bit float internal recording. So you let me know which one you think sounds the best as I cycle through the audio. Of course, you can see which one is running, the Sennheiser, the MKE600, or the Comica VM40. I honestly think both sound really great. I do think the Sennheiser might be slightly better, but you got to think about it. The Sennheiser is $300. The Comica is about $250. So for $50 less, you're also getting a lot more. You're getting that internal recording, the 32-bit float, the app capabilities. Like, is it worth it to you? And I hate to say this because this gets used a ton and it's very cliche, but I think the Comica mic punches way above its weight class. Anyhow, guys, I think this microphone is awesome. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about it, there will be a link down below in the description. My name is Armando. Thanks again for watching, and you will catch me in the next one. Adios.